Hey, this is Carla.
And this is Jasmine.
And you're listening to
Cracking the Coconut, where we tackle taboo conversations in the Filipino community.
By cracking one coconut at a time. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cracking the Coconut, where we discuss really fucking awesome, crazy, fantastical, and some bullshit within the Filipino community. I am your host, Carla J.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm also the co-host of Cracking the Coconut. Thanks to everybody again who's been following us, getting in the comments, and continuing these conversations with us. It means so much, and we're making progress, everybody. We're really making progress.
Lots of progress. We released Cracking the Coconut about a month and a half ago maybe,
yeah.
And things are progressing forward in very positive ways. We're getting a lot of interaction on social media, so be sure to follow us. All the info is going to be in the description and all of that. But yeah, so today, what are we cracking?
Today, we are cracking something pretty interesting, I'd say.
Okay.
All right. So we all know growing up, we were told a lot of things, a lot of different things that our adults, maybe teachers have shared with us to help us as we age and we mature into adulthoods, into teens. But, you know, a lot of those things weren't always accurate. A lot of them were actually really, really false.
Very false. And also, when you think about it, just the way our parents would scare us into believing certain things just so we wouldn't do a certain thing or so we wouldn't be bad, I've come to realize we're really toxic. And I know our parents meant well. They just didn't want us to get into trouble or didn't want us to get hurt. So they resulted in scare tactics to get us to not do something when a simple conversation would have sufficed.
Man, I hear that. And it's crazy because if you think about it, right, a lot of parents or adults, they don't want to tell the kids the actual truth for fear of maybe they won't understand yet, or maybe fear of breaking their innocence. But at the same time, I feel like it's really good to communicate with your kids at a young age and obviously not tell them the adult conversation side, but in a way to kind of help them understand and ease them as they begin their understanding, you know, when they get older.
Yeah. Question, did your parents or your grandma, your grandpa ever tell you this, to never go to bed with your hair wet, otherwise you'll have a headache and you'll go mad, like you'll go crazy?
Yeah, I definitely heard that, myth of going to bed with your hair wet is really bad. I understand the headache part because, you know, you still wake up and your head's cold and all that stuff, but the part of going crazy... How does that even make sense?
I have no idea, but I remember whenever I would take evening showers, my grandma would always bring the hairdryer to me and essentially force me to drying my hair, because she said, you're gonna go mad. And she'll be like, do you want to go mad? They will send you to the hospital. And I was so confused because I didn't understand how that correlated.
I also remember something that has to do with washing your hair and your hair being wet, that not to go outside of the house when it's cold while your hair's wet.
Oh yeah, yes, I've heard that same exact thing from my grandma and my mom. They wanted me to always have my hair blow dry, because they said, and it also makes sense that they didn't want us to go outside with our hair wet, because it meant that we could possibly get sick. And in the winter months, like, yeah, that makes sense. Why go outside with your hair super wet when it's 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside?
You lived in 30-degree weather?
Yeah, I have.
Where?
Japan.
Oh, shit.
So a lot of these things that we were told as children, a lot of them tend to be very innocent, harmless things. Don't go outside with your hair sopping wet. Don't go to bed with your hair damp. Little things like that. Those I feel like are just really harmless things. But there's also little other ideas they try to implement upon their children that they feel is harmless, but actually as they grow up, it shifts their entire perspective about anything, whether that's career, that's listening to authority, it could be love. Those little instances as a kid could dramatically change the way they view a certain thing.
Yeah, I think those adults don't think, or they choose to not think, that this child will eventually become an adult, a free-thinking individual adult, and you got to set them up right, man. If you don't, it's gonna skew their idea of reality, and that ain't good.
Yeah. So okay,
let's jump into it, right?
Let's jump into it. Okay, here's a big one, and this doesn't just happen in the Filipino community. I know it happens in many different ethnic communities. The idea is that you get good grades, you go to college, and going to college means you'll get a good job. I feel like this is also a generational thing because our parents, who are boomers, they went to school, went to college, got good grades, and got good jobs. They were able to get houses by the time they were 25, have kids, and go into a very successful life, save up for retirement and all that jazz. Whereas millennials, they don't get that luxury. And I feel like a lot of boomers tell millennials, or just say that millennials are lazy. We spend all our money on avocado toast, Starbucks, and whatever it may be, because they see a decline in millennials purchasing house, having kids, and all that. When the reality is, we would love to do all that stuff. I would love to buy a house, but that's just simply not the reality for a lot of millennials these days.
It's not at all. You know, at the time, so in my mom's career, right, I think she's a really good example of this. So she went to our local city college in San Francisco, and she graduated with an AA. And at that point, you know, she was able to build this career as an accountant at the Postal Service. And for years, she stayed at that job for over, I think, over 30 years.
Wow.
And
was that her first job right out of college?
It was pretty much her only job, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she was able to move up the ranks and have a longevity, career in the Postal Service. And, I remember when she got a promotion, and she was telling me that, you know, if this was now, so this was probably like in 2000, I don't know, 2009, 10, something like that. And she was telling me that if she got that job now, she wouldn't be able to actually be in the position she's in, because the people who have that role, they have to get like a master's. But she only had an associate's degree. But because she was able to establish herself back in the 80s, and move up in the ranks, which, makes sense. You put in the work, the work, you move up based on your skill, your experience, your tenure. She was able to lock in that role. But that's not the case nowadays with employment.
Yep.
You could have 10 years in your bag, but a lot of employers will also want you to have like a master's, X amount of years doing X, Y, Z.
Yep.
But they're so strict on the requirements that they're likely missing the best candidates out there, because they're limiting themselves to just that without actually knowing what people are capable of.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I'm currently looking for other positions, and a lot of the jobs I'm coming across are, say, my job title as a video content producer, but instead of, say, just asking for a bachelor's degree, or maybe knowing how to use Premiere or maybe Final Cut, there's 20 different bullet points of the requirements. It's not only a degree in a very specific, like either communications, film, editing, whatever it may be. They want you to know like 10 different programs and softwares, also even like content curation and creation for social media. So being able to be social media savvy across the board, so TikTok, Snapchat, IG, Facebook, and a bunch of different things, know how to set up lights and everything. So instead of going to school just to learn how to be a really good videographer, they want you to also be a DP, a director of photography. Okay. They want you to be able to know social media management. And
yeah, and if you think about it too, there's a lot of people who have college degrees, and college degrees aren't the ticket to getting that career, that next move. They help, but the degree in my opinion, the degree is just a piece of paper sometimes. And that's unfortunate because we spend so much money on education nowadays, student loans. It's a whole nother coconut that we can crack. But, you know, like back in the day, you know, our parents, like the boomers, were able to graduate, like Carla said, and get these jobs.
Yes.
After you get the job, you get the house, you can get a car, all that stuff. You can support your family. But the truth is, with inflation, all that don't mesh up.
Yes.
The divide is so big, and so we're unable to take those steps that our parents were lucky enough to make. And I think that's also a part of the discussions when you talk to older individuals, and they look at you like, well, when are you going to settle down, or why can't you save, or, you know, when are you going to get a real job? Like the problem is, it's really, really tough out here. And, you know, when somebody hasn't experienced that, it's really hard to have them understand that exact thing that you're going through and that struggle that you're going through.
Yeah, 100%. Because all of our lives growing up in the 90s and 2000s, we were taught not only do you go to college and then get a good job, but we were also taught that we can do whatever the fuck we want. Our childhood was built on dreams and attaining those dreams, whether we wanted to become a ballet dancer, a astronaut, a teacher, whatever it may be. We were told that we were allowed and should shoot for the stars. And now that we're trying to go to school and learn all these different professions besides becoming an engineer or a doctor, because there's, let's face it, thousands and thousands of different options and career paths we could go into, because we were being taught to shoot for the stars. We're trying to shoot for the stars, and now that we're trying to do everything they told us, from, you know, do this, this, and this, it's not working out in our favor.
The template don't work no more.
Yeah, and we're being called not crazy. Well, I mean, some of us are being called crazy, but we're being called lazy, which I feel is a very inaccurate misconception about the millennials, because if anything, we're some of the most hardest working motherfuckers out there. We grew up also on hustle culture, which is a whole different coconut, because as a person who always said hustle, 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 I'm a hustler, da 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 da, I'm coming to realize because of pandemic that hustle culture is also very toxic in itself, where you say, I will sleep after I do 50 hours of work on my passion project. Like, sleep shouldn't be a treat. It should be something to refuel your body. You should work as many hours as you want and sleep peacefully and happily, not because it's a treat, because you got X amount of work done. Yeah,
it's not like the piece of cake at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's self-care. Let's jump into another little thing that I was told when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I thought this one was really interesting. So if you swallow a watermelon seed, a watermelon will start growing inside your belly.
Oh, okay.
Which is ironic, okay? First off, I just want to note that you should actually be eating watermelons that have the black seeds in them. If you have only the white seeds, that's not a real watermelon and no nutrients in it. Just want to throw it in there. But yeah, so in Filipino food, we eat pakwan seeds.
Yes.
And they're basically the watermelon seeds that they dry out and they, you know, say salt it a little bit, and then you could break it kind of like a sunflower seed. And those shits are fire. I actually want some right now, so hopefully we can go to the store sometime and grab some. But they say as if like also eating gum. If you swallow it, the gum's gonna stay in your tummy and it's gonna like ruin your insides and it's gonna stay in your tummy forever or something like that. Like these really ridiculous, funny ways of saying, hey, don't do this or you're gonna hurt yourself.
I have a joke for you.
All right, let's hear it.
How do you get a watermelon pregnant?
How do you get a watermelon pregnant? I don't know.
You fuck one.
Why did I think it was gonna go somewhere that way?
So who told me that joke? I think my mom told me that joke. No, I think my mom actually told me that joke.
Oh, you dirty mom.
My dirty ass mom. No, she's great. She has really good jokes. So does my dad. But the whole watermelon thing though, so I used to think that too, and not because a grown up told me, but because there's a very specific episode of the Rugrats. Rugrats is a show about these babies from ages 0 to 3. Like Angelica
3.
was 3, and they just talk to themselves and they get into a whole bunch of different adventures. It's fucking fire. I love it. But there's an episode where I believe Chucky eats a watermelon seed and all of the other babies they shrink and they go inside of Chucky's body to stop the watermelon seed from growing. And Angelica is trying to sabotage every one of them. So she goes into Chucky's body as well and tries watering the watermelon seed so it'll explode inside of Chucky.
Damn, Angelica.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the episode, Chucky wakes up and just burps out the
seed.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So then I thought, oh shit, there's gonna be a watermelon growing inside of me.
All you gotta do is burp it.
Yep. All right. So another misconception, and this isn't one that our parents have told us, but I think it's something that media has a part to play in. And I'm not sure how this works in other, like in media in the Philippines or maybe in other cultures. But in American culture, we see through media and TV and movies and all that, that high school are the best years of our lives and that everything revolves around high school. We see a lot of very interesting and popular tropes in American television and movies where 8th graders are about to embark on high school and they're all worried about what they're going to wear, their hair, their makeup, and who they're going to hang out with, and popularity and sports and all these different labels. And there's a lot of popular high school-esque movies like Mean Girls, John Tucker Must Die, A Walk to Remember, and they're all around this idea of high school, and that high school is this one specific idea of party but also trying to fit in, and that high school is supposed to be the best years of your life. And as someone who graduated from high school over 10 years ago, it is not.
It's way off.
It's way off. I mean, of course, if you want to have a good time in high school, have a good time in high school. Like, I had really good days in high school and I also had really shitty days. Like, it is what it is. If you had a good time in high school or are currently having a great time in high school, fucking milk it. Like, have a good time. Like, you don't have to be miserable because I was an emo kid.
See, I think that's also those kind of movies and those storylines don't really paint an accurate picture in these kids' heads because they're thinking they're going to enter in the doors of the high school and it's going to be this amazing experience, but sometimes it's not amazing. Just like you said, you know, you were bullied and you had bad days, and I think that's what also helps create those kind of insecurities and bully moments for these children. Like, these are children, these are babies, you know. And personally, I don't think that I had a cool high school experience, but it definitely wasn't my best days. Like, I don't go think about like, oh my god, remember this one day on like February 12th, we had like such a dope day in high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember anything like that.
And that's because you didn't peak in high school.
Exactly. And I was just busy being like a kid, you know? My favorite moments were going to basketball practice or playing games, you know? Like, those were the fun times for me. And, you know, to be honest, like, even like the high school friends, I probably only talked to 2 people, but the bulk of my friends who I've kept in contact with through the years are either people who I grew up in junior high school, in grade school, and as we got older, we just like, those were our people growing up, so that's like our fam. And also some people that I met as adults, like those who are a little more not curated, but those people who are a little more like my style, my flavor of people, the type of people I want to surround myself with, and those are the people who I've had some of the greatest memories with.
When I was in middle school, 8th grade, I used to dream about being 15. For some reason, that was the golden number for me. Like, because let's be real, kids these days don't look like kids. They look old. There's 16-year-olds who look way older than I am, and they have great makeup, great style, but I'm just like, damn, you don't look like a kid anymore. And when I was in when we were in middle school, we had awkward faces straight out of my asshole. Like, my elbow was awkward. Let's be real. So when I was in the 8th grade, I thought, oh, when I turn 15, I'm gonna be so beautiful and so perfect, and I'm gonna be popular in high school. And for some reason, that was in my head, and I'm pretty sure it had to do with the TV shows and movies I was consuming and all that stuff. But 15 was the golden number for me. You know what I was doing at 15? reading Harry Potter, which I think is the most coolest thing you can do. So shout out Harry Potter, Hufflepuff, hi. Anyways, but at 15, I had braces, I had glasses, I had terrible highlights because I knew nothing about hair or how to ask.
Did you do your own hair?
At 15, I didn't do my own hair. I wanted to get highlights like all the girls at my school wearing Abercrombie. See, that I think that was me trying to fit into like into the whiteness of everything, because even though there were a lot of Filipinos at my high school, I didn't quite fit in with them, which is a whole different coconut in itself, because those Filipinos at my high school were very, very cliquey, and they just had a certain type of attitude to them that there was something very sus about it that I didn't vibe with, so I never hung out with them. And so it was this also internal erasure of my heritage and me just wanting to be white. And so I was trying to get highlights, but I also didn't know how to ask the hairdresser what type of highlights I was looking for. I just said blonde highlights, and that could mean anything.
Yeah.
But at 15, I wasn't the most amazing person. I was very awkward.
Yeah, back to what you were saying about young people not looking their age and not having that awkward phase. Like I remember like some of the most exciting things to get in high school and grades in junior high school was getting a tube of Carmex.
Oh yeah.
While kids nowadays are getting like palettes and all the what is it called, all the popular like makeup, whatever about makeup. I don't know about makeup, but what I'm saying, like that's like the thing that they want to get. But I was excited about getting Carmex.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I remember wearing blue eyeshadow and using Maybelline Dream Matte Mousse. If you were a makeup wearer in high school in like from 2005 to 2008, 2009, Dream Matte Mousse from Maybelline was the thing, and like everyone knew. And in high school, no one was wearing high-end makeup. No one was really wearing MAC, and if you did have MAC, it was usually a singular eyeshadow or a lipstick that you probably got from your mom or your big sister or whatever it may be. Everyone was using drugstore products. YouTube didn't really exist, and if it did, it wasn't what it is now. To be honest, so there was no way for us to really learn how to do makeup either. It was just through learning magazines and watching each other. But yeah, so kids these days don't look like kids, and it's really sad. And it's not only do they not look like kids, but there's a certain attitude and this entitlement they have that they think they're adults when they have no idea what the fuck is gonna happen.
Yeah. For like young people, really try to embrace your youth years, because once you become an adult, it's a whole different world that you haven't even cracked into, so make sure, most importantly too, you're also around a lot of people who support you and who are down for you, and not the people who like what you wear or like the way you look like because they think you look good to take a picture with. You know what I'm saying? Like really surround yourself with a core person who vibes with you on a fundamental level.
Yeah, and high school are not your best year. Trust me, like there is way more cooler things in life than just high school. Like I barely remember what happened then. And if we're being honest, the 30s, pretty fucking great.
It's where it's at.
30, flirty, and thriving.
So here's another one that I was told as a child, that milk will build strong bones.
Ooh.
I hated the taste of milk growing up.
Me too. It's like I could taste the whole cow. Yeah, it's like I was sucking it from the udder.
That's how. Sucking from the tit?
You know?
Ooh. Like I just did not like the taste. There was always like this filmy texture on my tongue. I remember I would be told, finish your milk. I didn't want to. That's why I like chocolate milk better, because it masked that weird taste. But, milk does not give you strong bones. It is actually really, really bad for you. It has like cow pus.
Yeah.
Humans should not be consuming milk. If you don't agree, just research it. It's just not good for you.
Yeah, the whole cow pus thing really threw me off, because I was like, how is that even legal? Well, apparently that milk cartons can have a specific cubic volume of pus legally within each carton of milk. Definitely do your research. If you want to, I get that great things come from milk, like cheese and cream cheese and all those dairy products. Like I get it, cheese is fucking Chef's kiss. I mean, I don't really eat dairy, but I know that it tastes really good. But personally, I cannot do whole milk. I think it's also because when I drink whole milk, I will blow up a bathroom with my butt. I get really bad diarrhea, get bad cramps, and I always tend to get the same thing at Starbucks because so if a barista accidentally puts whole milk or even non-fat milk in my latte, from one sip I can tell that it's off. And it's not just because I have a preference and choose to drink non-dairy milks, but it's also my tummy be hurting. I'm not trying to get sick. So
Yeah. If you think about it, there were so many ads back in the day, like in the 90s, the 2000s, especially like the Got Milk ads, you know, those commercials you'll see, and they had like the milk mustaches, and they had, you know, a lot of celebrities also endorsing milk, drinking milk in these ads. And you know, like it seems as if, you know, now it's come to light how bad it is for you to drink. I wonder what kind of agenda was pushed back in the 90s of why this was pushed so much. Like, I don't know, if you think about the way the world has changed since the 90s and 2000s even, it's been so much development and truth that's come out.
okay, I have a theory.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
I have no idea if this is actually like a thing. I'm gonna have to do research on this. Veganism and plant-based diets are thriving right now. They've become so much so of a trend, but eating vegan and not eating dairy or milk or whatever has been around for years and years and years, especially in Asian cultures and maybe back in the 90s and 2000s, being vegan or plant-based or vegetarian just wasn't as common in media. I'm pretty sure there were people not eating meat. It just wasn't so popular back then. And maybe,
Or like the weirdos were vegan. You know what I'm saying? Like
the weirdo hippies. And I've seen today where there's a lot of white people promoting veganism and being plant-based, which I mean is totally fine, but they almost kind of whitewash this lifestyle and completely negate that Indian food can be healthy and plant-based. Filipino food can also be healthy and plant-based when you omit
So
the
good.
milk. I mean, omit the milk and omit
the pork,
the pork and
the
the chicken,
chicken.
the beef, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Sinigang, so good.
Yeah, you know, possibly, because, you know, like we're saying that, you know, back in the day, a lot of people equated veganism and, you know, non-dairy eaters to weird, quote unquote, weird people. And then now that it's become something more accepted in the mainstream, which plays a big part on how things come to be, you know, it's definitely changed. And let me just say something. Vegan food that is cultural, like whether it be Jamaican, Filipino, Indian, Asian, it is so good. Like it
So
is the
good.
best food. Like so you know, we've gone to you know, like American food, vegan places, plant-based restaurants, and it just does not hit.
It's bland as fuck.
It's so plain.
It's sad. In where we are right now, finding plant-based food like restaurants is really hard to come by, and so we found one, we tried it, and it was just it was the most basic tasting. There was no flavor. It was so bland and disgusting, and they were like, the whole concept of this restaurant is eating healthy because they sell a lot of juices and smoothies and stuff,
which is good.
but healthy is not synonymous to lack of flavor and being bland. Fucking season your shit, bruh. Like, yeah. So, in essence, cultural food can also be healthy. It can also be plant-based. Like I said, like Jasmine said, Jamaican food. We've had some amazing vegan Jamaican food. Their ital.
Woo.
Plantains. It's so good. Ethiopian food too. Ethiopian food
That's
we
a good
had,
one.
so amazing. So yeah, the next idea that we were taught as kids that is no longer true as adults is that 18 means you're an adult.
No.
No,
I'm not an adult yet.
I'm not
so
even an adult.
We're
and
past that.
I haven't been 18 in like 100 years. I'm a vampire. Edward Cullen is my friend. He and I shine and sparkle at the same time.
Is that why you have sparkle on your negligee? Did I say it right?
Décolleté? Oh, negligee.
What's a negligee?
Décolleté is
Oh,
like right
negligee is not a word. It's like neglect.
Oh yeah, but it also sounds like negligee. But yeah, so we were told pretty young, well, not us specifically because we're also Filipino, but there's also this idea in American culture, or maybe white American culture, that when you turn 18 you get kicked out of the house, you're officially an adult. And that is simply not the case. How can you be 17 the next day at midnight, turn 18, and be ready to take on the real world when only 6 months ago they were asking their teacher if they could use the restroom in 8th period? You know?
Yeah.
Like, how you can't expect that. And I mean, there's pros and cons to not kicking your kid out, but kind of pushing them to do real world things like get a job, like a part-time job, or learning how to save money, maybe setting up a banking account, like a debit card with them. There's pros to that, which I personally love, that I wish my parents did with me when I was really young. But kicking your kids out and just saying you're 18 and you're an adult just does not make sense to me. And whenever I have kids, I will not be pushing them out at 18.
Yeah.
I will be training them and helping them to become the best fucking adults ever and not be shitheads in society, that's for sure. But to push them out at 18 just because they turn in age doesn't mean shit to me.
You know, I agree with you 100, you know, and, you know, growing up, you know, because we grew up in America, I don't know if it was a mix of, like, I also felt like I needed to grow up or do such big things at 18. You know, and it was kind of like a clash because, like, in Filipino families, you're not pushed out at 18. A lot of children and even the children's children live at home, and that's the family home. You know, and I'm personally a supporter of having
Multi-generational.
Yes, multi-generational households, and in addition to that, around you having your extended family, like say like your siblings and their kids around to have that familial bond and group around you as part of like that growing process together and support system. But you know, it was confusing for me as a Filipino American kid, thinking like, because I live in America, I have to work at 18. I had to move out at this time, get an apartment, be independent, this and this. But in reality, I didn't have the tools. Like you mentioned, I didn't have the tools to be an adult, to live on my own. You know, the idea is nice. You know, you don't like to be nagged no more by your parents.
Yeah.
You don't like to be, hey, wake up, do the chores. Hey, wake up, do this, do that. But with freedom also comes responsibility. But I did not know that responsibility. And that's actually really dangerous, putting out a young person out into the world like that without having them have these skills and these tools to survive out there.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes there's this cultural difference and cultural clash between possible friendships. I don't know if this happened to everyone, but I know it happened with me. I mean, in high school, I had my friend group was very ethnically diverse. It was just a very diverse crew, but we all were able to understand that just because we were 18 doesn't mean shit, that we still had to ask permission from our parents. We couldn't just leave the house. And I remember when I was 19, I had a boyfriend, and I would go over to his house, and this was a secret boyfriend. My parents did not know. And I would have to leave and get home by a certain time, and he would be confused. And this was a guy that was half Italian, half Portuguese, like just a white dude. And he would say, why do you have to go home now? You're 19, you're an adult. Like, what? No, I'm Filipino. It doesn't work like that. Just because I'm 19 doesn't mean I can't, like, not follow the rules. I live at home. I don't have a job. Like, everything I do is paid for and sponsored by my parents.
They're sponsoring this podcast. You know, that's really interesting because, you know, I also had similar experience where it's like I didn't really understand why I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, even though I was of age. I was, you know, 19, 20, 21 even, you know, and And I didn't know how to explain that or ask my mom, because she was the one who was a little more strict in us going out. So it's like, Mom, like, why can't I spend a little more time out? I'm 20, like 11 o'clock isn't a curfew for a 20-year-old, you know? But that clash of culture is so hard to understand and explain and just process as a Filipino American, and I don't know what it is. Like, I really don't know what it is.
I think the process is hard, and for us to understand, because growing up, we were surrounded by a lot of people who were allowed to just go to the mall, who were allowed to just do whatever they wanted once they turned 18. We were surrounded by this westernized society, but at home, we were back to being Filipino. And so we wanted to hang out with our friends at the mall or stay out till 11 p.m. and do whatever we wanted with our friends. But our parents would completely ignore the fact that we were technically adults on paper or by law.
Do you think it was a way for like our Filipino families to protect us? That's why a curfew is enacted. Like, what do you think it is?
I honestly believe that is the fact, because Filipinos tend to be very protective of their kids. I mean, even though I don't have kids, my sister, she's 20, I'm very protective of her. Obviously, I tell her to, do whatever, drink, be a hoe, just be careful. Be a hoe, but be careful is my mantra. Do you, boo. And do whoever makes you happy. Anyways, but I do believe that's why we had such strict curfews and strict households, because they were just trying to protect us. And I can see that now as an adult, when you're 16, 17, whatever it may be, it's hard to understand that. You just think that your parents are controlling you, which I think there is a little bit of controlling, and there should be some ease to that. But it could also be because our parents, my parents, your parents were born here, right?
My parents immigrated here when they're like in junior high.
Okay, so maybe they've seen a lot of dirty shit happen in the Philippines where they're from. My parents grew up poor, so they've seen a lot of crazy shit that has happened. So maybe it's that trauma of growing up and maybe getting hurt or seeing some shady shit happen in their neighborhoods, and they don't want that to happen to us.
I think this goes back to making sure you raise your kids and you trust the way you raise your kids. That point that I've made before. Maybe if Filipino parents were able to communicate with their children and help them ease into like American society and the way things are here, it wouldn't be as strict growing up. They wouldn't have to feel like they need to protect them so much, because they know their kids are equipped with these tools, like I said, to deal with the real world.
Yeah. What's funny, whenever, I don't know if your parents told you this, but it's that whole phrase, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you too? Would you do too? Like,
they've
bitch,
said that.
It'd be my idea. And my sister, when she was in high school, she would call me and be very upset that she stopped getting invited to things by her friends because my parents kept saying no. So instead of asking, hey, do you want to come to this? She just got pushed out of friend groups completely. And that's it's like a pretty immature thing to do, but you're also like 16, so it is what it is. But
or kids be thinking like, oh, she's lame, so let's just not invite her, she can't go anyway.
Like, she can't go anyway. And it really sucks.
And that also affects you as a kid. Like, nobody wants to feel left out, especially when your high school world is so small.
For sure. So another idea that we were told as kids is sex only happens for married people. And this kind of goes hand in hand with what we were saying about kids just wanting to go out and living in a strict household. So I lived in a very strict household, and the second I got freedom, your girl went buck wild. I was going out to clubs almost every single weekend, and I was even going to clubs when I didn't have a job. So I would get loose change found around the house, go to a Coinstar, put it in the Coinstar machine, and get like $25, and that would be my club entry fee. Because I just wanted to go out and just be like just live. I would go out. I would
be free.
And I started drinking at 19, I think, and just hanging out, being crazy, making out with everybody that I wanted to. And I just had so much of this freedom. I didn't know what to do with it. And
You wild thing.
I was wild. And I feel like, like snorting coke on a key, like in a bathroom, like some wild shit I got into. And I feel like
Damn, you just outed yourself.
it is what it is. Like people do that shit. Like, I'm gonna be transparent. I don't do that anymore. But it's just I could have gotten hurt. Is what I'm saying. I could have gotten hurt, and I'm not saying parents go out and let your kids snort coke in a gas station bathroom with their friends, but it's just kind of not only
classy.
Not only I know.
So classy. I just thought of like a truck stop, grimy ass restroom with like the Honda key.
It was an Arco, and it was a Subaru key. Thank you so much. Oh
damn! Okay, Subaru.
No, actually, no. I think it was a Jetta, because it had the button and the key flipped out, and it was like, "Who wants Coke?"
I got the Coke and the Coke.
Yeah, but when parents say, sex is only for married couples, I mean, you could say that, and a lot of the times it could be true, but also a lot of the times consenting teens are going to do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. And, that also goes back to, probably religion. A lot of Filipinos are Catholic. So, it's expected, as they say, that once you're married, you can, consummate your marriage. But, it's fact that a lot of Filipinos don't always follow that traditional Catholic teaching of get married and then you could have sex, like under God's eyes, you can now have sex. It reminds me of how I was told you can't date till you're married.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like with this whole like rhetoric of saying you can't date till you're married, you can't have sex till you're married, or it's only for married people. It's like stops that conversation. It stops, informing your children and, the young people how to go about things in a healthy way in terms of their relationship. Like, how are you supposed to date and really find someone, like a quality person to marry, if all you're telling me is I can't have sex till I marry? So it's like, what, I'm gonna go out and marry some motherfucker just to fuck? Like, let's talk about it in a better way to really prepare themselves.
Yeah, and it also shows kind of what's in the back of their head of all that a relationship and a marriage is sex. When that's not the case. Marriage is more than just the physical intimacy. It's intimacy of the mind, the soul. It's a companionship more than anything. Let me write a book, let me tell you. Only been in love once. Actually, twice. Hilary Duff. Anyways.
I thought it was Selena Gomez.
Oh, yeah. Well,
hey, she been in love more than once, more than twice, y'all.
These Disney Channel girls, let me tell you. So sex already is a whole nother coconut, and we've been just opening up little mini coconuts. And if there's any coconut you would like us to fully dive on in a full episode, just let us know on social media, email us, let us know, and we'll, make an episode happen. But sex itself is already a taboo topic within the Filipino community. And instead of having an open conversation with your kids and telling them about sex, not just what it is and what happens and you could get pregnant and STDs, but there's also an emotional side to sex that a lot of people don't realize until they're actually happening. And it would be nice to help prepare young adults into their sex life by saying, hey, just because you have sex with a person doesn't mean that they're going to want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Also, too, to be respectful of other people, you can't assume that, a young adult wants to have sex.
Yeah.
Some people aren't about that life and don't want to. So, there's ways to have conversations with each other, and especially young people, without assuming that this is something that they want and this is something they're going to have in their life.
As an adult, I've looked at my life and I've had a lot of fun, and I will continue to have a lot of fun. It just will not involve these hard drugs. I'm done. I've lost a lot of brain cells in an Arco bathroom. It's just not my steez anymore. Maybe in a Hilton bathroom. I'm kidding.
Maybe in a suite in Vegas.
Maybe in a suite. Just kidding. No. The only drug I'm into is love.
So one thing I was told as a kid is if you don't go to church or if you don't pray, God's gonna hate you.
Ooh. No, he loved me.
I know he loved me. He loved you.
Me.
You know, and so, you know, obviously I was told that because they want you to do something. They want you to get up out of bed, get ready for church, let's go. But, you know, it's another thing that's confusing. It's not the right message because, you know, if you believe in God, if you believe in any if you believe in God, if you believe in any form of higher being or you have a spirituality, you would know that those are centered around love and acceptance. So, you know, when I was told, oh, God's going to hate you, I never was scared because I thought it was just so silly, you know, and it's interesting that as Filipinos, who a lot of Filipinos are Catholic, for them to really seem to always use Catholicism, God, the Bible as a form of weaponry to your actions or threats.
Yeah. And that form of weaponry, using the Bible and quotes to try to dehumanize and force someone to do something of what you believe, I don't think that's what God would have wanted, to be honest. And I feel like a lot of Filipino parents use religion as a way for them to control their kids without trying to talk to them about the relationship they should have with God. Instead of saying, hey, wake up, it's time to go to church because we go to church and we have to. It's more like, hey, honey, be sure to wake up in the morning. Tomorrow's gonna be a good day, you know, to help, you know, gonna be a good church day tomorrow. You're gonna pray to him. And I actually, you know, that's something that my mom would do with me. But my mom would tell me, you know, it's important to go to church so you can pray to him with what you want, and you can pray to him about love and, you know, telling him about your day. And it was just more, she was telling me the importance of going to church by having a special relationship with God, as opposed to, no, go to church because if you don't, you're gonna be a sinner all your life.
Yeah, you know, and like, don't get me wrong, you know, a lot of practicing Catholics and people practicing religion truly believe that as the center of their faith, wholeheartedly, you know, and not to be used as a weapon, you know, like how you mentioned with your mom, how, you know, it's a way to go to church and be thankful and be grateful. And that's always important to have in your life. But when you think about it, when they use religion and faith as a way to you know, create a reaction from somebody, it also reminds me of how religion and Christianity was forced on many people around the world for years. And it's very forceful, and the tactic is not about love and community. It's about legit force.
I feel like people hate the Christians who use the Bible and quotes to be mean and to just be cruel. I've gone to tons and tons of pride festivals where they have the, you know, the people with the yellow signs,
the good dudes with the signs,
the dude with the signs, the big ass signs about, you know, you're going to hell, and, you know, spraying the F word everywhere, and it's just like really disgusting. And I see that and I'm like, I don't want to be part of whatever church you're in, because that just looks like just a really bad, cruel time. Like, I want to hang out with the religious people who are loving and accepting. Like my sister, she volunteers at a church, and they're like the modern Christians, I guess you could say, and they're very accepting type of people, and I love that.
And that's the way it should be, you know, in terms of like community. Like, it's crazy how these people who stand outside with those big ass signs with these really hurtful and degrading words, like, what do you expect people to do when they see you? It's like you get off by getting the reactions of like, man, get the fuck out of here, you know, you're wrong, or whatever. Like they legit wake up, pick up their sign, hop in the car, and stand out there for hours in the sun looking fucking dumb because they're spreading these words of hate.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of life is that? That is no purpose.
Yeah, it's just spewing hate, and it's so wrong and so bad. And it's like, what type of audacity do you have to tell me what kind of relationship with God that I don't have? Like, my relationship with God is nobody's business but him and I. You know, and just because I go to Pride Fest, or just because you find me doing coke in an Arco bathroom doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Like, I love my God. Like, it is what it is.
Exactly.
So the next topic is that the suburban life is synonymous to the American dream. And I don't agree with that. Even though I've grown up in many suburbs, to be honest, even though I love city life and working in city life, I prefer living in a suburb. I like the more quiet type of feel, you know, white picket fence type of shit. Like, I like it. You know, it's what I'm used to. It's what I feel safe in. But I also don't feel like it is the ultimate indicator of success in America.
Yeah. I personally can't relate to that because I always grew up and living in a city for the most part. So my parents actually bought their first house in a suburb in the Bay Area. So, you know, we would go there on the weekends, and you know, it was clean, it was nice. We had our backyard. Our neighbors around us were pleasant, you know. And I wonder if with them, if they thought like this was the epitome of American married life, where we'll raise our children and get them away from the city, you know. And especially then, because like it was different back then, because you know, I felt like the suburbs were just kind of blooming and you know, naturally, whereas now, like, a lot of the suburbs, they're really, really expensive, but also like a lot of the people who grew up in the cities are now pushed out to the suburbs, not because they want to, but because they have to, because they're, you know, most of the time a lot cheaper. Obviously, if you're in California, that's not the case, but you know, it's a lot cheaper to live in the suburbs opposed to like the cities. And to me, like, it was nice, like, it was cool, you had the space, but to me, it's not the epitome of the American dream or the American experience. You know, I feel like the American experience for me is being around people and learning about different people, different backgrounds, different cultures, different ages, you know, whether you grew up in the city or the country, or you grew up in Nevada or New York, you know, getting to know like how everybody like lives and does their thing in this country. That's like the American experience.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I feel like the American dream, two thoughts to it. One, I believe that the American dream was an idea created with only white Americans in mind. It did not include minorities or people of color. And I also believe that the American dream has also shifted throughout the years, depending on what the economy looked like, depending on the trends of the people. You know, in the 50s and 60s, yeah, maybe it was the American dream to own a house, to own a washing machine, and have a life like Leave It to Beaver. But
Pleasantville.
But now the American dream, I feel like, is honestly just surviving and being you and doing you and just living life. That's what it is. I feel like what it is now. It's no longer, okay, I'm going to turn 25. I'm going to own a house. I'm going to have a really good job with a high paying salary. I'm going to meet Mr. or Mrs. Right and have 3 kids and a dog named Fido. I feel like the American dream now could be anything, and it could be just, like I said, survival and just finding success depending on what you believe successful means. It's hard, and now that our parents are older, they're trying to implement these same American dream standards onto their children, forgetting that it's a whole different era now. Things are completely different in the economy and the way people move. There's social media now. There's a bunch of new jobs that didn't exist when our parents went to school in the 80s. Like social media management wasn't a thing when our parents were in school, and so now it's just like anak, what do you do?
Right.
You know?
Social media management wasn't even a thing when we were going to school.
Yes, it wasn't. It was. Oh, that's another coconut.
Oof, yeah.
Girl, let me tell you, okay, when it comes to the job search, for example, for like social media management and all that stuff, I have the skills to be a social media manager, but because I don't have that specific degree of social media marketing, which didn't really exist when I was in college, someone younger than me, a Gen Z, could get that job over me, who has years of experience learning it and being part of social media. But because I don't have that one little degree, someone else could get the job over me, or it could be a boomer who can't even open a PDF and get it because they have 20 years of experience doing whatever it is that they do.
You know, one thing about like the Filipino community, especially Filipinos who come here and immigrate, you know, it's really, really not easy. And I think, you know, one thing that I want Filipinos to know, and, you know, anybody who even stays here for like a visa is, you know, once you hit American soil, it doesn't mean that you made it. You might have like hopped off the flight safely, but, you know, integrating into American society, the culture, trying to succeed and find your way is really hard, you know. So it's really important to educate yourself in the right way and talk to people who don't have like this one-sided view of how American success can be, because it might have worked for them, but there's a possibility, and sometimes a large possibility, that it won't work for you. So it's really, you know, crucial when you come here to also have an open mind and to find your way through America.
Yes, I totally agree. Every Filipino American experience is so unique and so different, and just because, say, we've made it or our parents have made it doesn't mean that you can follow these steps A, B, C and become successful. You might have to do A, B, 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 C, C.2.
Erase that shit
And do it again and do something different for you to succeed and reach your version of the American dream. But today we cracked a bunch of different coconuts. And again, like I mentioned, if there is a specific topic you would like us to dive a little bit more deeper on, let us know on social media. We are at Cracking the Coconut on Instagram and on Facebook, as well as Cracking the Coco on Twitter and TikTok.
And if you haven't already, check out our website, crackingthecoconut.com. We have our episodes up there. Also, leave us a comment. Send us a message on any of our platforms. We love hearing what you guys have to say. We love engaging with you all. It's one of our favorite things that we look forward to every day. And, you know, it's really the thing that's taking these conversations to another level. And hopefully we're making a dent in your lives as well as ours. So we'll hit y'all next time.
Yeah, see you in the next episode. Have a good one.
Peace.